Good morning. I'd like to welcome you to our first College and Coffee of the 2013-14 school year. My name is Karen Valentine. I'm the Director of Guidance, and I'm very pleased to see so many of you here today. I expect there will still be a few more coming, going that way, just coming in. Today we're going to start the process talking about college admissions, and we have some handouts for you to look at later. We're not going to be going over those handouts this morning. But before we start our formal program, I just want to go over a couple of things that are coming up on the calendar. We have our annual testing day on October 16th. It's a Wednesday. If you have a freshman, sophomore, or junior, they will be taking a standardized test that morning. Freshmen take a test called the Plan. The Plan is a practice for the ACT. Sophomores and juniors will be taking the PSAT, which is obviously the practice for the SAT. The score reports will come out in December, probably just before Christmas vacation, and we'll have an evening in the first week of January when we come back from vacation to go over the PSAT and the results and what to do, but it will be an evening presentation, so it might make it easier for people to get to. For freshmen who are going to be taking the Plan, some of them may feel that there's material on there that they haven't seen before, but don't worry about it. Freshmen typically are a little anxious when it comes to standardized testing, but this test does not go on their transcript. It is not sent to colleges. It does not count for a grade in any class. It's simply a test that shows how they did that day. They will be getting a score report that shows how they scored in comparison to the other freshmen here at Chaminade. And the same thing for the PSAT. The students will get a report that shows how they compared within their class as well as nationwide. And it's normed for sophomores as well as juniors. The PSAT will have 3 workshops leading up to the PSAT. The first one is September 18th. These are all on the master calendar, so if you don't write them down, you can just look at the calendar. On September 18th after school at 1:35 in the Media Center, we'll have a presentation on the writing section. And then on September 26th, again at 1:35 in the Media Center, will be a presentation on the critical reading section. And then on October 4th, there will be a presentation on the math section. And the object of these workshops is not to teach content, but to teach the students some tips on how to score better on the test. And then if you have a freshman, you didn't pick up the flyers, hopefully, for our full-length practice tests, but we're giving 1 full-length SAT on campus on September 21st and 1 full-length ACT on October 2nd. I think it's the 2nd, Saturday, 5th. So those are kind of some testing things that are coming up, and we'll go ahead and get started with our program. And I'd like to introduce first Scott Borchard.
Hello everybody, my name is Scott Borchard. I'm one of the guidance counselors. I have freshmen through first semester juniors, last name A through F. Okay, so I've met a lot of you, freshman parents. I'm sure I'll get to know you soon. But today what I wanted to do is there's a program that any of you who have sophomores through seniors know about called Naviance. Right? This is a web program that we use a lot to help students kind of figure out what schools are looking for. There's a lot of tools on there that help them with test prep, a whole bunch of different features on this website. Right? If you don't have your own login, you can email your student's counselor and we can get you all their login information. Now, freshman parents, fortunately, we don't have the freshmen set up yet. We usually do not go over that with them until second semester. So you guys will just have to hold tight for a little bit, and then second semester we can start doing this with you as well. But I am going to show you some features on it that are good for everyone to know. This year, we started putting our curriculum. That's not my dog, it's Mr. Fuller's. We started putting our curriculum onto Naviance, okay? In the past, we've gone over a sheet with all of your students of different things we want them to do each semester. A lot of times those sheets never make it home. They end up in the bottom of a backpack, perhaps a locker, maybe on the ground, who knows. But this year, you guys will be able to go onto your own profile and you can see the tasks that are assigned to them as well. It looks pretty much identical to the students one. The only difference is there's a couple features that just you guys won't be able to access. So I'm just going to show you real quick. So you can find the tasks by going to My Planner tab right here. When you go here, there's going to be a purple tab right here that's called Tasks Assigned to Me. Now this is the student page, okay? When you click on this, this is a student that we made up that's a junior. Okay, so you can see there's a lot of different tasks that juniors need to do in order to make sure that they're prepared for college and whatnot. Okay, some of these tasks are just reminders, reminding them to go to some college rep visits that we have here on campus, reminding them about a college fair that we have coming up, and there's some other tasks that they need to start doing, like talking about to teachers about maybe some recommendations and things like that. But what you can do is with each of these tasks, you can go and you can click on it. Okay, we do register for SAT, ACT. All right, on here, we talk with all of our juniors about when to take that. They go on here, we have the two links, one to College Board, which is for SAT, one for the ACT, which is the actstudent.org. Right? But it's an easy way for them to go through and see what they have to do. Once they do that, they can mark it as complete and it shows up on their profile as being complete. All right, when you guys log in, all you're going to see is this comment. All right, so if there's a comment or something, oh, I registered my son here, blah, 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 you can put that in. You won't be able to raise a hand, which the students can click that to ask their counselor a question. And you guys won't be able to mark it as complete. Only the student or their counselor can mark any task as complete. All right, so what you'll notice though is every student each semester is going to have something different. Or I should say, each grade level is going to have something different. So second semester freshmen are going to have a set of tasks. First semester sophomores are going to have a different set. Second semester sophomores are going to have a different set. So on and so on. And that's to make sure that by the time they get to being a senior or second semester junior year, that they're ready to go. They're ready to start looking at some colleges. They've done everything else they needed to. Okay, but it's easy for you guys to go on there and keep up with them too and ask them, have you done this? I know that this is coming up. Have you done this? Okay. It's still a work in progress for us. There's still little things that we're figuring out, but our students like it so far. They like being able to go onto it whenever. Parents I've talked to like to see that it's there, and it's really helpful for them. All right. So, like I said, if you guys do not have your login information, please contact your student's counselor, and we'll get that to you as soon as we can. Do you have
Is there a link from the school website?
Yes. In order to get to it, you go to Chaminade.org, and you can go to the counseling page. And on the counseling page, there is a link that's like TCCI, Family Connection. Family Connection and Naviance is the same thing. You can also get to it if you have your students' login information for Blackboard. There is a counseling page on Blackboard that you can get to Naviance by going to the external links tab on their Blackboard. Okay, and the students should know where that is. We show them every time they come in. All right? So, I will be passing this on to Mr. Fuller, who will be talking about college stuff.
Good morning, packed house. Thanks for all for coming. Okay, so my kind of part of the presentation will be more about last year's seniors, kind of the application trends, so you can kind of get an idea of the vastness of where our students are applying to and what they're looking at, and then as well more for the senior parents, to get senior parents that are very, very nervous at this time, kind of specific tasks that their seniors should be doing for the next 4 months. Okay, so class of 2013, we had 339 students. With those, there were 3,031 unique applications, which basically adds up to just under 10 per student. Of those, there were 330 different schools, which is phenomenal because that means that for every student, there was basically one unique school that they were applying to, which which is great for us because that means that we're really giving them that information and that they're taking that information to heart and applying to those great schools that you may not have heard of. Of those 339, 39 are attending Catholic universities across the nation, which is great. And then 115 different colleges of attendance for our students. This is a map that the counseling department is very proud of. Every orange state is a state where an application from one of our students occurred. There are 5 states where students didn't apply to, which is awesome. Very proud of that. And if you look, this is more of a trend of where our applications are occurring. So California, there were 67 schools in the state of California where our students applied. That's not every school in the state of California, but that is definitely a majority of the schools. And that's great information for us. And of course, that's expected, right? New York and Massachusetts and Pennsylvania are kind of the next big 3. Because if you really look at a map of our students, it's California and then East Coast. More recently, we've had a big trend towards Colorado. I see there's a parent with the going thumbs up. Yep, it's our daughters over in Colorado, another one. And then Oregon and Washington are really coming in as well. We've also had a lot more international interest. We had 2 students from the class of last year that are in Canada right now. We did have 6 applications, and we almost had a student go to England from the class, but she decided not to and decided to stay a little bit closer to home. So you can kind of see the trend. It is a good thing for us, and we're really hoping that we keep this trend up because there are so many great schools that students may not know about that we want to get them to know about. Okay, so with these applications, there are really 4 big application types. First one is Common App. Common App primarily consists of private schools. There are a few public schools throughout the country, Michigan, Colorado Boulder, and Colorado State being kind of the 3 big ones. The website for that is commonapp.org. So if your student is applying to a private school like LMU, like Syracuse, for example, they're going to be using Common App. Next big one would be the Cal State University one. So San Diego State, Cal State Northridge, all of that will be encompassed in there. And that's found at csumentor.edu. Then we have the University of California system. So with those 9 schools, universityofcalifornia.edu/apply. So you can use that website to look. And then out-of-state public schools, and then there are a few private schools that have their own independent one as well. But the out-of-state public schools that would use their own would be Oregon, Washington, Wisconsin, and a couple of others. And if you're ever in doubt, just go to their website, go to the school's website. When you click on the application, it'll tell you exactly how the application is expected to go through. Okay, so where should my senior be today? What I mean by today is actually today, September 12th. What should they be doing? Where should they be at? And what should they have done by the end of September? So they should have their application list completed or be very, very close to being done. A lot of my seniors right now have 60, 70, 80% of it done. They're still trying to decide between 2 or 3 schools, and they don't know quite which ones yet. They might be visiting them or haven't decided for a variety of reasons. So as a senior parent, your students list should be completed or almost there. If you have any questions, please send them on over to their college counselors so we can make sure that we do have their list completed. As always, we will be calling them in, but if you're one of those who wants to get it done quicker, have them sign up on our board, and that will help. They should have taken in their junior year the ACT and or SAT, preferably both. If they have not, they better be registered for one right now, or else they're in trouble with us. No. So they should be, and if they have already taken one, if they want to try to improve a little bit by retaking, definitely, and then as well SAT subject test should be finished out. And that should all be done by November, December at the very latest. Of course, there's circumstances that prevent that, and that's on a case-by-case basis. Their essays should be a work in progress. I tell all my seniors, the first draft of your college essay is going to stink. It's not going to be very good at all, it just won't be, right? And that's good, that's fine. We just want something on paper. They should have an idea, a rough draft, an outline, something for their Common App essay, and then they should start knowing and working on their UC application essays as well. They should be registered and working on their Common App. Okay? The majority of students at Chaminade are going to be applying to a school through Common App. So they should have one created, the general information done, and most of what should be left would be their essays and then their supplements for each different school. All right, their recommendation questionnaire and resume. This is found on Naviance, and this is what myself and the other college counselors use to help write their letter of recommendation. This must be completed before we will talk to them about their letter of recommendation. Now, freshman, sophomore, junior parents, your child can and should be working on these right now. That way, when it's their senior year and they're stressed out and busy, they already have a lot of information on there and complete and ready to go. And as well, they're teenagers and their memory isn't always great. So then, when they're trying to remember about what they did freshman or sophomore year, it's already on there. They don't have to go back and remember. They have it ready for them. Okay? And then attend college rep visits during second lunch. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the slide, but there's virtually every day through the month of September and October, there's at least one college rep visit on campus. It's always in the conference center. It's always during second lunch. Okay, so the rest of the fall semester. So in October, they can begin working on their Cal State and UC applications. They should not begin working on them until October 1st because they can't. The system won't let them. Should request recommendations if they are an EA or ED, which means early action or early decision. So if their due date is November 1st and November 15th, they should be thinking a month ahead. And by October 1st or October 15th, they should be letting us know. Now, hopefully you know if your son or daughter has an October 15th early action deadline, which some of you do, which is absolutely wonderful for us, by the way. But if they do, they really need to see us right now if they have an October 15th deadline. They need to attend college fairs. So we have a college fair coming up in October that we'll give you the date for a little bit later. And then they must keep their grades strong. A college will pull an offer if the grades aren't where they expect them to be. So they have to keep their grades strong throughout senior year. Come November, they should apply to the Cal States and UCs by the 30th of November. They should be finishing up any last-minute testing. Should begin the hunt for scholarships, and senior parents, you will start receiving an agonizingly large amount of emails from me with tons of scholarships, which is a great thing. I hope you like me for that. And then by the 25th of November, that's kind of our cutoff date to request recommendations for counselors. That gives us enough time to make sure we have a good letter written by those January 1st, 15th deadlines. Because come November, things start speeding up really quickly. We don't have much time in December, then we have Christmas break. We get back after January 1st, so there's a lot of stuff that has to be done before all of those upcoming deadlines. December, finalize applications that are due in December and January. Make sure that transcripts are requested, and then follow up with teachers and counselors regarding recommendations, and of course, prepare for finals. And of course, throughout the entire application process, they should be checking their email daily. Most of your children will have smartphones at this point. They should have their email on their phone. It's a really easy way to check it. And I cannot emphasize how important it is. If a college needs something, they should be responding to them as soon as possible. They shouldn't be putting it off, waiting a month or whatever, because the college doesn't need them as much as they need the college. And they can easily fill that spot that they're missing because a student forgot to turn in their test scores or something with another student that already has. Mrs. Calgo will talk about general trends.
Good morning. So, because I know not all parents here are senior parents, for those of you that are not, and even for those that are, we just kind of wanted to fill you in on a few things that we've noticed over the last few years in college admissions in general. Okay? So obviously, from what I'm sure you read in the media, all over, colleges are getting more selective is the word on the street, right? You hear how competitive it's getting. Well, that's really only accurate for about 100 colleges in the United States, okay? There are still, so you can look at the numbers that are on here. So we're talking the big name schools, Stanford, Yale, Harvard, Columbia. Yeah, you can see that the admissions rates are painfully small, okay? So less than 6% of applications, those students are admitted as freshmen. Okay, that's a very daunting number for any student, regardless of how strong they are. And so even our very, very top students, these are still reach schools for any of these students anywhere in the United States. But the great news is, and what we are trying to emphasize so much, is that there are still so many fabulous colleges out there that have very generous acceptance rates, with over 2,000 colleges in the United States accepting over 50% of their applicants. So really the message that we want to get out to you is that there is a school for almost every student that attends Chaminade because of the rigor of Chaminade. Even if you have not had a student that maybe is, that straight A student, that gets C's commonly, because Chaminade is a challenging school, there are still wonderful and fabulous places for that student to attend college at a four-year school if that is the route that that child and you would like them to take. Okay? So another trend we have seen is with the increase of the Common App. Does everyone kind of know how the Common App works? Common App is one large database of an application. And now there are over 500 schools that will accept the common application. What that means is kids get on there and they add on schools they don't know a lot about because it's the same application, right? I might as well apply to these 3, 4, 5 schools that my friend's applying to, or I've seen, on something that came in the mail. And so colleges are getting a huge increase in applications. That is part of the reason why we're seeing the numbers lower for admittance rates, because they're getting so many more applications. They're not necessarily competitive applicants, but there are more applicants, which makes the colleges look more selective, which increases their ratings. Okay? So it's a very complicated, intertwined system. And with those, the admissions officers have a new term for those applications where they are coming out of nowhere. They have had no contact from the student has not attended, a fair or registered on their email to get updates, and that is called a stealth application. Okay? And that means that student's application, that student has not been on their radar in any way, shape, or form, and these applications are coming in. These students are very unlikely to be admitted to that school. The reason being is the admissions office's job is to admit students that they think are likely to attend their school. That gives them a higher yield rate, which is the term that also goes into their rankings. So they want to know that when they admit this class of 4,000 students, that a good majority of those students are going to accept that offer of admission. So how can you not have one of those stealth applications? Please don't start calling them. Please don't start leaving them cute little emails or gift baskets. That's not what we're saying, okay? That will make them angry. Don't do that. But if you are able, attending, you know, a visit, a tour on the campus is hugely important, okay? That lets them know that you have seen what that school looks like. You know what the programs are, and that student still wants to go to school there. If that is not possible, given that a lot of colleges, you know, are not down the street, right? And it's expensive to get other places. Attend area visits. We post those along with our lunch visits. A lot of them will hold them in, you know, Studio City hotels or downtown. Attend those. Those are the admissions officers that are reading your applications. Make face-to-face contact with that rep, not you, the students, but you know what I mean. Okay. So, lunch visits. We have a great program here that Mr. Fuller is coordinating where we literally have, sometimes we have 2 and 3 campuses, different colleges here, and hardly anyone comes to these things except for the few schools that the kids know the names of. These are the admissions officers that are reading these students' applications, and they are here, and the students can come and speak to them, you know, when there's 20 to 25 kids in the room. What an awesome opportunity for them, again, to have, you know, name, face recognition, so when their application comes across the desk, they are aware of this student, or a vague recollection. Oh, I remember talking to them about this student. They were really interested in engineering. We have a great program. I think the student would be a great fit. Okay, so make sure that you are using these opportunities to do that, and also things like our college fair. All right? So these 2 trends that we see in general, we just talked a little bit about that. As far as what do you do to get past those 100 colleges that we could probably all, if we played a party game right now, we could probably all between us name those 100 schools that have highly recognized names. What about the other 3,900 schools in the United States, okay? How do we get to know about these? Well, we have made a huge effort to try to educate students on the different options. But we're also asking that the parents kind of get on board with this as well, because I can't tell you how many times I hear students tell me this. How about if you think about schools in Colorado? How about if you think of school X, Y, or Z? Oh, my parents don't want me to go there. They don't know that school. How many times, Mr. Fuller? On a daily basis.
10.
Daily basis. Okay? So not only do we have to ask the students to expand their thought process, we're also hoping through means such as this that we can have you expand your thought process when it comes to thinking about some of these colleges. And I'll give you a perfect example. The South part of the United States is an area where a lot of people that have grown up in this area, parents and students alike, shy away from. And it just, the stereotypes of, you know, the schools, they're not as selective. You know, why am I going to send my child to, you know, a school in Alabama or in Louisiana? Well, the answer is there's some fabulous, fabulous schools there with great college experiences, like no other experience you're going to have anywhere else in the United States. And I had a student that just went down there. She came back. Everyone in the office heard her because she was like so pumped up. She's already applied to 5 schools, was accepted to 2. One of them her second choice, Ole Miss. She's a 2.9 student. She said Ole Miss looks like it should be like the one from Blindside. Remember that school? It was a beautiful school, right? She got in. She's excited. It's her second choice school. She's waiting on her first choice school, which is LSU. She said that the experience that she had down there was second to none, and she's seen a lot of schools because her older sibling went through this process already. She was so excited. I came out of the office, I said, we have to take our kids down south. We have to take a tour down there, because she was so excited about it, and that's something, probably the most untapped area for us as well, that we want to encourage you guys to consider for your students. Something else you can do is to kind of, especially those of you that have freshmen, sophomore, even junior parents, kind of use resources we have. These are 2 of my favorite books, okay? 2 of my favorite books. Colleges That Change Lives. They actually have a website. It's a nonprofit organization. And there are 40 colleges listed in this book. And I guarantee you, I looked through it last night briefly, like you probably would recognize maybe 4 or 5 of these schools' names. But these are schools that have some of the most innovative, creative, unique programs in the United States. Okay, so you can look at the website. If you have a chance to get the book, you can order them both off of Amazon. They're in paperback. Admissions Matters is a kind of a how-to manual for parents and students starting the college application process. So if you read this with your child, oh, wouldn't that be cute? If you read this with a child, like old times, right? I can just see it. First of all, they may not even know what you have in your hand. It's an actual book. But, so it guides both of you through, what all this terminology means that we throw out, EA and ED, what does this mean? It breaks it down for you. What do these terms mean? How do you find these colleges? What does it mean if a college is highly selective? Goes through it chapter by chapter with some exercises for you and the student to kind of explore what will be the best fit for that particular student. So if you have a chance to get these, awesome resources for you. So what are we doing to kind of help in these, crusades to find out? Our college tours have changed significantly in the last few years. In that the counseling office is now planning them and running them, and they have been a great success. We are taking students in October to the Northeast. The tour filled up by the first deadline. We're taking 40 students. We're very excited. And in the spring, we are going to Colorado because we attended a conference there, was it last fall? And we're struck with the beauty of a lot of the schools that are there and some of the fabulous programs that are just right in line with what our students are studying here and we know their interests are. And so we're going to be taking them up there. We love the Denver area. The city was close to what they will be, comfortable with and familiar with growing up here, but a little bit different, and schools that most of our students will get into. And some of these schools participate in a program called the Western Undergraduate Exchange. It's also called WUI, all those other acronyms, okay? That means that if this school participates, that you might qualify for, it's not technically their in-state tuition, but pretty close to what their in-state tuition is. So again, we're trying to explore the options of obviously getting into college, but also making it an affordable option, which is the reality for everyone in this room, right? Making sure that you can help your child get through that experience. So, and then next fall, we are most likely, this is the plan right now, going to be doing a Midwest tour, which we have never done before. So Chicago, Indiana, Michigan, seeing Notre Dame, seeing University of Michigan, seeing University of Chicago, Loyola Chicago, University of Indiana, where we have a lot of students apply. So we're trying to rotate the areas so in a 4-year period, students can attend those tours and see some of the areas that they might be interested in. Our Valley Catholic High School College Fair is the end of October this year. We had over 100 actual admissions reps. These are not alumni or parents. These are the admissions reps as well. So this is another way that the student can demonstrate interest in that campus. And here's the slide just to let you know this is an example of kind of what's going on this week. Lunch visits are always during second lunch, so the students come, bring their lunch, talk, chat. It's very informal. It's not, it's not a serious presentation. They can ask questions. You can see St. Mary's College. That's the one in Moraga, right? One of colleges that change lives. One of the 40 colleges that are in that book is coming to our campus. And honestly, that is a college where I would say 70% of our students at Chaminade would be admitted to. Okay. So just want to keep that in mind as well, especially for juniors and seniors, to encourage your students to be aware and maybe remind them or encourage them to attend. All right, so we like to leave the last few minutes for questions. So anyone that has questions about anything, it doesn't have to be about what the presentation was about. You're welcome to answer any questions. Yes?
Is it true to say all colleges except SAT and most will accept ACT? Is it true to say that?
It is true to say that all colleges accept SAT and ACT.
I don't know, and most of it. except
No,
for
all colleges accept the SAT or the ACT. Yeah, yes.
Preference on that, I heard, my son was telling me that ACT is more science-based, not as much English-based.
No.
I mean, I don't know the difference between the
The
two.
ACT does have a science section, but doesn't mean that there won't be some science involved in the SAT. They're a little bit different in that the SAT is a critical reasoning exam more. The ACT can more focus on learning.
It's a measure of what the students have learned in high school.
Thank you.
It's more of an achievement test, like it's measuring what they've learned. So it's not the reasoning test, which is what the SAT is. Kind of how good of a test taker are you? Okay, and the ACT is more what do you know?
And the science section is not biology and chemistry and physics. It's more data interpretation, reading graphs, interpreting.
Which one is?
ACT science
ACT.
section.
ACT.
Yes.
But the ACT science section is one of four. So you have the science section, the reading, the writing, and the math, where the SAT only has three sections, the critical reading, the writing, and math. So that's why sometimes people think there's less importance on the math or less importance on the writing. But there are different formats of the test. So have your child talk to the guidance counselor about the test. We encourage students to take both because you don't know for sure which one your child is going to do better in. We had a student several years ago who was a very, very strong candidate in our top maybe 10 in our class, but had a good, very good SAT score, and his college counselor said, why don't you just take the ACT and try it? And he got a 36, which is a perfect score. I'm not saying that we have a lot of 36s, but I have seen several 35s, 34s. So our
So then
students,
what do? You just send the better score to the college?
Yes.
So, and there's
Yes.
no preference?
Correct.
Let's say if it's a top school,
No.
why aren't you sending me an SAT?
No.
Why are you sending me an ACT?
No.
Okay.
Yes.
Most of the time, on the news, people say my child scored perfect SAT. Seems like to me, most colleges prefer SAT. Am I correct?
No, you're not. That is not correct.
That's not correct.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, but
That's
I
old
always
school.
say both.
That's old school. That's like that used to be, but is not the case absolutely at all. Yes.
Do both of the tests now have a writing section on it?
Yes, they do.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Both tests have a writing section on them, yeah. Yeah, there is an essay that needs to be written for both the ACT and the SAT.
it
Yes.
includes grammar and things like that too.
Yep, yes.
I have two questions. These SAT workshops, is that open to freshmen or?
No.
Okay.
Because they're not taking the PSAT, they're taking the typing test.
Okay. And once you get the results of these standardized tests, will the guidance counselor go over how to improve certain sections, or is that?
That's what the
up to-
workshop is for, that Mrs. Valentine has scheduled for the
Okay.
PSAT.
Okay.
It's more, you're welcome to come in with the test results if that's something most students are just able to look at it, see the areas they excelled in, the areas that, they need work in. A lot of students will take this if they do test prep. They'll take it to their tutor or the test prep company where they can see where their areas of weakness were and focus the test prep on.
The other thing is too, when you get your score reports back, you can go to their website and you input your own student code, and it'll break down the questions that you had the most difficulty with, and it'll go through the areas that you need to improve on.
Okay.
So that's something that's available to every student because the information's right on the score sheet that
For
they
the
get back
PSAT.
for the PSAT.
And also, the students get their actual test booklet back. So when they're taking the test on test day, if they're writing in their books, and then when they get their score report back, they get the score report and their original test book, we encourage them to look at the questions they missed and see, was it a careless mistake, or is there a pattern here? They can ask their English teacher, they can ask their math teacher if it's a verbal question for some help as well. But they can bring their score report in and talk to their counselor about it if they wish. The evening presentation is really for the PSAT because that's the one that's got more visibility and importance. Okay, over here.
I had a question that I just heard so many different things from different people, and then when I go on the internet to try to research it up, again, the answers are always so varied. My question is if you take the PSAT or
The PSAT scores never show anywhere. They are practice tests. They are not sent for admissions, ever.
So they never.
And the
see-
most a student could take it would possibly be twice, in their sophomore year and in their junior year.
So they never send the junior
Correct.
year scores?
Ever.
Okay, so then now with the SAT and the ACTs, let's say you've taken the SAT and, some people I know are taking them really early, and then they say like, okay, well, it's for practice or whatever, it's not gonna show up, but then I'm hearing, yes, it will, they all show. If you take the SAT and the ACT, let's say like that person who did 36 on the ACT, if she didn't want the SAT score to follow any of the apps, is that true, or it is just gonna show up?
That is an option that student has to not send their SAT scores. That is always an option that the student has. There are many colleges, typically the more selective ones, that ask the student to disclose every test score that they have taken. Now, that is not the same at every college, but that is the same, like UCLA asks that all the students disclose all their test scores.
So that would mean that even if you were trying to get, let's say, your ACT score, they still want to see all your SAT scores. Okay, so that's actually what, and it doesn't matter if you've taken the SAT 4 times, they want to see all 4 of those scores?
It doesn't matter, but that would not be a positive
Right, I'm just saying,
reflection.
if somebody has taken it 20 times and the school
Yes.
says you want to see everything, you would have to.
Right,
list
and
it.
that's why we encourage our students to not take it until the spring of their junior year.
Okay.
Because you are missing a lot of course content up until that point. And so taking it numerous times, one, usually does not give you a positive result,
Right.
and two, reflects negatively on the student's
Right, and
application.
that basically what you just answered was kind of what I was looking for, because everybody keeps having different answers.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only follow-up to that is on the PSAT for juniors, that is the qualifying test for National Merit Scholarship Competition. So if you have a child who tests well, they want to really try their best, go to the workshops, do the practice test. They were passed out this week in English classes to all sophomores and juniors. It was the student guide with a pull-out insert of a full-length practice PSAT they could take and score at home to have practice before they come on test day. Okay, there's a question in the back.
A quick one. The workshops, the 3 workshops, do they have to register
Nope.
for those, or they just show up?
Last year we had about 90. The media center seats 130, so just show up.
You're good.
For a junior, when they go to these lunch things this week and next week, and when they start to just go these casual tours, what should they expect? What kinds of questions should they ask, or should they prepare for?
They should expect a very goofy admissions representative who's really pitching. It's kind of like used car salesman, but not as bad. It's not that bad, but some of them are. But they should just go in and any questions they might have about the area, social life, specific programs they might have. Usually the reps have a very specific set of things that they want to get through. Average GPAs, the application process, everything like that. But if your son or daughter has a specific question about that school or the state it's in or everything like that, they just ask any question, they'll be happy to answer it.
If the lunch visit is a college or university that your child is really interested in, it wouldn't be a bad idea to look up on their website some information particularly about a program. Let's say your child wanted to major in engineering, and you look up and you find out there's a special program or a special scholarship, and you ask the rep about that, and you really seem knowledgeable about their school. They're going to be impressed, and these visits are generally held by the people who read the applications for Chaminade students. So again, if your child is very interested in that college or university, get the person's card at lunch, send them a note and say how much they enjoyed hearing more about the school. Like Mrs. Cowgill was saying earlier, interest that colleges, when they know you're interested in them, they go, oh, I remember meeting that young man or that girl when I was at Chaminade. They were so enthusiastic. You never know what can tip it into an admit decision versus a wait list or a deny.
Did you have a question? Very straight.
I do. Yeah, I was wondering 2 things. One is, can you review when they meet with the college counselors? In other words,
When
when
they
they're
start
called
meeting?
in individually, and also when they get this information that you've just given us,
Well, the general information,
As a whole.
that starts in their freshman year. This is information that starts getting shared with them as far as exploring the options, thinking about the different colleges, what the requirements are to get in. That was the kind of the tasks that Mr. Borchard was showing you. Those are all in preparation for.
So if they're a junior, they've heard all this.
Yes, many times.
Whether or not they decided
Many
to listen.
times. We swear. We hear it because we each other say it on and like. So they actually will meet with the college counselor that they're assigned to in the spring of their junior year. And then obviously, from then on, that's who they're
So they
meeting with.
get called in once, or?
We'll call them in at least once a semester, starting from freshman year on. Yeah, and then, for the college, yes, they're gonna come in as many times.
Yeah, so junior year, yes, we will see them all once in the spring, but there are kids that come in many times.
Right.
If they have other questions.
They can sign up on their counselor's door to let us know that they want to be
But they
seen.
will be called in once.
Minimum.
Junior year.
Yes.
Minimum, per semester. But
Per
they-
semester?
Per semester. But they transition to their college counselor at the second semester, so sometime in January.
That was my question.
Yes.
My son is taking the SAT in October. Would it be helpful for him to take the one you have in September, or is that just too much? Because that's only 2 weeks before.
The practice?
Oh, the actual SAT?
Yes.
I think at this point he's late registering, and it,
Oh, no, he's already set
he's
up.
already registered for the
Is this a senior?
Yes.
I mean, honestly, if he has not taken a full length, yes, it would probably, the one thing the kids don't plan well for is the time management and the length of the exam. It's the one thing I hear kids say, I wish I'd known like how exhausting it was, I wish I knew kind of the pacing. So that will be very helpful. I'm not saying it's, 2 Saturdays in like 3 weeks is gonna get him too excited, but in the long run, yes. Do I think it would be beneficial? Absolutely.
Okay, and how does he sign up to do that?
I just sent out flyers last night, and there's also on Blackboard, we posted the flyers, and you register directly through whichever company is doing that session.
There's a link on the flyer.
Yeah.
They link directly online.
Yeah.
For juniors, that's another point too, not to take the actual SATs and ACTs now, because you are competing nationwide against seniors who are still
Correct.
taking. And that's why spring is a better way to do it.
Yes.
Do you have another ACT practice test just because October 5th is the actual SAT?
No, but the test prep companies will be glad to give you a practice test at their test center. So when you see the flyer, call them and say, I can't make it on that day. They'll arrange for you to come in and take it in their local office. Not a problem.
Are those practice tests helpful for sophomores, or is it too overwhelming too soon?
I'd say it depends on the sophomore. If you have a sophomore who's really excited about college and gung-ho and wants to do this, let them sign up. But don't push them, because if you push them, they're going to be turned off by the process so soon, they're going to get burned out. So I'd really leave it up to the sophomore.
Is it a helpful benchmark with no prep? Yes, it is.
You have a comment on that?
I have a comment on that, because my son, who is entirely unmotivated and undirectional in any way, as a sophomore last year, and it was just like this year, held a few weeks before the PSAT, and he came home from the practice SAT, and he's like, Mom, I was the only sophomore there, I can't believe you made me do that. 2 weeks later, he took the PSAT, he came home and said, you know what? The best thing I ever did was take the practice test, because I knew what to do. I knew how it worked. And this kid is not motivated. He's motivated, but he just doesn't see it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say if the approach is that it's their choice and they're not stressing about it, or, other than complaining about getting up early, is it a worthwhile experience? Yes, for most students, I would say yes, definitely.
We have some parents over on this side. Down the floor?
I have 2 questions. My first question is, for example, today's Chapman, but it's only at second lunch. What about the students who have first lunch?
Is it your child a junior or a senior?
Sophomore.
Okay, they'll be back next year.
Every year.
We really don't want to take them out of class to go to these visits, especially if they're sophomores. If it was a senior who had first lunch and it was a top choice, then we can talk.
Okay, and then my second question is, understanding that they're both equally important, if you had to pick one in which to expend most of your energy, would you recommend grades, or would you recommend test prep?
Grades. Grades. And the academic profile is the biggest piece that's most important. Selective colleges want to see rigor in their curriculum. For some students, rigor means taking that third year and fourth year of foreign language, taking that fourth year of math and fourth year of science. For other students, showing that rigor might be taking honors and AP classes. Not everyone here at Chaminade is going to take honors or AP classes, but there are other ways of showing rigor, like I just mentioned in the back.
Have you talked to any student when after they took both SAT and ACT and find out what they feel about between these tests and see which one seems like they reflect more what they learned at Chaminade?
That is going to vary from every student what their response to that is. Some students are distinctly more comfortable with one format as opposed to the other, and that has to be an individual basis. And that's why we so strongly encourage them to take one of each, because as Mrs. Valentine said, you never know. I mean, I do this for a living, and I'm not proud of this, but my younger son, I made him take it twice, but I was convinced I knew which one he was going to do better on, and he did better on the one that I didn't think.
Any student take both?
Yes.
And see which one.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
At back to school night, one of the teachers mentioned they, as a sophomore, should take the subject test if they were comfortable. Have you gone over subject tests? I know the rules have changed.
The subject test for sophomores, we recommend if they're in AP World History,
Right.
because you want to take a subject test when you finish the culminating class you're going to take in that subject area. So they're never going to take World History again.
Right.
So
How many
at the end of
schools are
sophomore year.
still wanting subject tests? Is it
Less and less.
Fewer,
That's
a
what
lot
I've
of them
heard,
will
so-
look at them though if you take them. So if you take it.
Less and less, though.
Yeah.
But
Like
is
the
it a
subject test.
situation, if you do well, you can say, hey, I took it. If you bombed, you don't have to show them?
Except for like Mrs. Cowell
Pretty
was
much.
saying, they
Yeah.
ask you to disclose.
There are a few schools, like Georgetown, requires 3 subject tests.
What's the subject test? I'm sorry, I don't know what that is.
Okay, so a subject test is an exam that's about an hour and 10 minutes that SAT or College Board administers that is in a specific content area. So as Mrs. Valentine said, there's world history, U.S. history, physics, chem, biology. They have it in the foreign languages, English literature.
We're going to have a coffee focusing on testing in
yeah.
2 months. We want to end at 9 o'clock, and we will stay around to answer questions, but before you leave, a couple of final comments. I did not put one handout out when you came in intentionally, because I didn't want everyone just to grab it and not know what was needed. This particular one is now by the sign-in sheet over where you came in, and it says college admissions, athletic recruitment, 3 mistakes to avoid. So if you have a child who is considering being, college athletics, pick this one up on your way out. If you came in late and didn't sign in, or pick up the handouts, there's sets of handouts over there, the sign-in sheets over there. And the very last thing is, those of you who came in a little bit later know there was a huge congestion trying to get on campus this morning. Mrs. Megorian, who's one of our vice principals, has suggested that we start our coffee a little bit later. I know it's hard for people who are going to work, but let the students get on campus and then maybe start like at 8:30 and let everyone get in class, then start our coffee. So this may be changing of time for the next coffee, but we'll let you know. I'll send you an email.
And then just so you know, we will post the PowerPoint as well as the flyer.
No, 8:30.
Oh, it started earlier.